But the live music capital of the world.
Yeah, right. We need to get that asterisk in there to where it's before 10:30.
Live from Animated Studios, 6A in the live music. Shh. It's the Damn Tonight Show with tonight's guest, music commissioner, talent buyer, and drummer, Doug Leveton. Now here's your host that just can't shut up, Colin McDonald.
Welcome to the Damn Tonight Show. Let's jump into some headlines. More and more companies and artists are now dropping out of South by Southwest, but the locals are just acting like, hey man, there ain't nothing wrong. Austin Public Health's Dr. Mark Escott said, there's no evidence that closing South by Southwest or any activities is going to make the community safer. Later in his comments, Escott said, one of the concerns is if we shut down or make the recommendation to shut down, South by Southwest, people will still continue to come. They will travel and they will still do what they're going to do, but without organizational structure that South by Southwest provides. And this is from South by Southwest. At this time, there are a handful of cancellations from participants who are traveling from China and Japan, and there have been a few corporate travel bans. Other than that, the cancellations are on par from past years. Yeah, other than that. There's nothing wrong. Please proceed as if there is no reason to panic. Don't worry, everyone. Man, you thought $9 water was bad? Try $20 travel-size wet wipes and $10 squirts from the Purell keg. Now announcing South by Southwest new joint sponsors, Purell and Lysol. South by South Wash Your Hands 2020. Now on to more positive news, the Austin Band History Survey. This is a really cool survey attempting to build a family tree of sorts for the history of the Austin band scene. And I couldn't love this idea anymore. I can't wait till they publish the results, so be sure to check out the links in the description and try to remember all the bands you've played in over the years. Shout out to Ernest Salas for this idea. It's just amazing. Now in other news, Gary Clark Jr. was on Joe Rogan and come on, that's just awesome. I haven't watched it yet because it's 4 hours long and, time exists, but I'm going to get to it. So this is really cool. Head over to the YouTube page or wherever you get the podcast and comment with your support. In other news, 37 towers are being built downtown, and if you ever wondered where all the music venues are going, don't worry. They're just growing, like Alice and Court. We may be losing venues left and right, but this just means the venues we have are just getting bigger, right? At least taller. People move here for the music more than the booming economy, stable real estate market, and innovative culture, right? We'll be right back with our main story, the live music capital of the shh, after this message. Austin's #1 source for hip-hop and R&B. Listen every Saturday from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. on KUTX 98.9. Now you can also catch up with the breaks on their brand new podcast releasing every Monday, along with weekly playlists exclusively on Spotify. Confucius Jones and Fresh know the Austin music hip-hop scene and are an excellent resource for all things Austin music. Be sure to check them out in the links down below. The live music capital of the world. Here we go again. Now, it seems fitting that just a week or so away from South by Southwest, we re-examine what the moniker means and how it came to be. Now, here's a quick history lesson. The slogan, the live music capital of the world, became official on August 29, 1991, after the Austin Music Commission, formed just 3 years earlier, looked into the data regarding a suggestion by Lillian Stanfield. They discovered that Austin had more music venues per capita than anywhere in the world. And man, have things changed since 1991. We're coming up on 2 million people now, and how many venues? How many bands? We have even been challenged a few times, but nothing has really ever stuck. So I got curious and decided to do a highly scientific study to see where we stand according to the results from a rigorous Google search. So here, per capita, are the numbers. And we're number 6? These numbers are not even including the metro population. All these numbers are from 2017, and you know that we have a ton more people than we did in 2017. And I'm thinking probably a few less music venues. So how do we act as the live music capital of the world? Well, there's some good and some bad there. We have representation in city halls, well in the governor's office, and we have Ham and Sims, but we also have a nice little shell industry built on the hopes and dreams of VH1 babies and a nonprofit system that's more focused on containing problems rather than solving them. We also have a history of issues with noise complaints, and you see, we get a lot of people moving to Austin every day, and a lot of the buildings being built and people moving into downtown. You see, these people are absolutely aware that they are moving to the live music capital of the world. We're not keeping that a secret. But instead of assimilating to the culture, these wealthy foreigners use 311 as their personal volume control for the culture, making it just that much harder to do business in the so-called live music capital of the world. Now, there is some hope with the Agent of Change policy, and I will quote Chad Swiatecki from the Austin Monitor article from last year. The city began looking for a remedy for the Agent of Change issue in the late 2015 when the Nook Amphitheater nightclub faced legal action from the nearby Westin Austin Downtown Hotel because of sound complaints, even though the venue's noise levels were within acceptable levels. Essentially, the Agent of Change gives precedence to the first one there. So if a bar tries to move into a neighborhood, the bar has to mitigate the sound, not the houses. If a neighborhood or high-rise condo moves next to a pre-existing live music venue, the high-rise has the responsibility to deal with the sound. But this hasn't passed yet. I wonder why. Well, honestly, why is totally above my head, but Google search will direct you to the people that can answer that in the articles that have been written. But for a first-hand account of how this is actually affecting live music in the live music capital of the world, we'll be talking with Doug Leveton right after this short message. Noises and Signals is a great resource for Austin music news by real journalists that know what they're doing and how to craft a compelling and informative story. Sign up for their newsletter to make sure you're not missing anything about the Austin music scene. All right, welcome back to the Damn Tonight Show. I'm here with Doug Leveton, and man, just for the people that don't know who you are, kind of tell me who you are and how you got here.
Well, like you said, name's Doug Leveton, from Portland, Oregon, born and raised. Moved to Austin in late 2008 with my now wife. And it was after a long road trip around the country trying to figure out places that we could call home. We're both from the West Coast and spent some time on the East Coast and just kind of wanted to fill in the gaps and find some type of major city to set down some roots. Us being in the creative communities, we knew we had to be in some type of metropolitan area.
Right. You didn't have a whole lot of choices.
Yeah. And I went to school in a very small town. So I kind of knew that we needed to find some big pond to grow in. And Austin was always on the list. We tried out Chicago, Minneapolis, Atlanta, New Orleans, Houston, and once we got to Austin, it just kind of fit. We started at a couch surfer spot for 2 weeks and then moved into a short-term lease and then a little longer-term lease and then bought a house in 2010, kind of on the cusp of this bubble.
Right.
So we've been in the same house for over 10 years now, and so we're feeling like we're established. I went to school for music business, so I was kind of thinking more along the lines of management, tour manager, or some type of live music management. I'm a stagehand and stage manager. And so I wasn't really thinking player, but I went to far too many shows and just the drummer was just so bad. And they were good gigs. So I was like, I could be a bad drummer and getting good gigs. So I gave it a shot, and my first full-time band was Soul Track Mind back in 2009, and they were already doing a weekly residency at TC's Lounge, which is now Sahara Lounge, and just got my feet wet. We were all kind of green and figuring out what it means to be a band. We were approached by a mutual friend about managing us, and he was fresh out from law school and had an accounting background and loved music. So he kind of was at the right stage of his career, finding us at the about similar level of where we were at. And 5 years, we put out 2 records that I was on. We traveled the country. We checked a lot of firsts off the box. So from there, I left them in 2014, started throwing events at now Sahara Lounge with my wife once a month, where we would just bring out our turntables and record collection, and I would book the bands, and it was called Third Thursday Throwdown, so we had a catchy title. First act was that I really that launched the party was Hardproof, and my trio Canned Beats opened up for Hardproof. I got Riders Against the Storm to play it, D Madness, Ruby Jane played it, KP and the Boom Boom before I was with them. So a lot of great bands that, looking back, were just getting things started, but now are household names in Austin.
Let's talk. You're a politician now.
Oh man.
So how are you organizing that in your brain?
Well, fortunately, the music commission is small potatoes, and we have very little power as far as what we can do.
Right.
Essentially, all we are just advisors and the voice of the public, and specifically to our council members and who we represent. So in that sense, I don't feel a lot of pressure. In another sense, though, we have some pretty big tasks. We just wrapped up the $12 million bond for a creative space, which I was a part of the working group, and that was a really eye-opening experience as far as understanding kind of the hoops that you have to jump through to get anything done in a kind of at the civic level. So that was nice to wrap that up. Now we have the hot tax money, which that is going to be a tougher nut to crack. It's when there's money out there, it's going to bring people out. The fact that it's tied into tourism, there's going to be some strings attached.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I'm so glad that you're on the Music Commission, and we have so much representation on the Music Commission right now of people that have a history of supporting the music scene. And it's one of the things we struggle with as a music community, especially supporting success.
Well, not just supporting it, but dissecting it. Understand why a band like Black Pumas got so big so fast. And a lot of it has to do with timing. They just were right place, right time, right sound. You know, I love bands like the Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings. And if you look at those careers, those were grinds, man. They're still grinding as a label and, you know, with the bands that they are putting out. And that's what you have to realize, is that this is going to be a long journey. Those quick overnight successes are the ones that everyone likes to shine light on, but it's really the slow grinds that are more realistic, that are gonna be kind of who I model my career after. You know, like Adrian came from Brownout and Grupo Fantasma. We went to their quinceañera a couple years ago, so now they're pushing almost 20 years doing this. And they're a household name in town, but you go anywhere else that not so much. And those guys backed up Prince. They got his seal of approval, and that's only a handful of musicians ever in their career get that. And now that is no longer possible. So it's a marathon. You got to just do what you want to do. Be happy with what you put out. I'm working on a Cam Beats for debut album, and there were decisions where it's like, I don't really care what anyone else thinks. I really like it. I'm keeping it. And you know, you want to consider your own ideas and be true to them, and make sure that at the end of the day, you're happy with what you're doing, because that's all that matters. You know, this life is too short, and tomorrow's not guaranteed. So just be happy in the moment and with what you're working on, and that's all you can really strive for.
Amen. All right, we're going to take a short break, Doug. We'll be right back right after this message. HAM provides access to affordable healthcare for Austin's low-income working musicians, with a focus on prevention and wellness. Many Austin musicians are self-employed and have no access to health insurance or basic healthcare. They often work multiple jobs and struggle to pay for food, clothing, and shelter with nothing left for healthcare. That's where HAM comes in. By resolving challenges such as long-neglected dental work to hearing loss, heart problems, and depression, HAM and their partners improve and save musicians' lives and enhance Austin's economy and quality of life. Austin is the live music capital of the world, and they aim to keep it that way. HAM has helped over 5,300 musicians access over $73 million in healthcare value since they began in 2005. These include routine dental work, doctor visits and prescriptions, psychiatric counseling sessions, eye exams, outpatient procedures, specialist referrals, hearing screenings, and more. Find out more at ham.org. Welcome back to the Damn Tonight Show. I'm sitting here with Doug Leveton. Now,
February Music Commission, you brought up a situation at Rainey Street.
Oh, yes.
Tell me more about that.
So, like I said, we've been my band Can Beats been doing half step residency on Rainey since April 2014. And that all came about through a mutual friend, Kenny Valentine, the Gentle Giant, who Colin and I played in a band together with. And he put me in touch with one of the owners who was looking for a weekly band similar to what we were doing. And it was a new bar. So they were just like, hey, we have a bar. We're trying to do some live music. You can move some tables and chairs. You know, you got to bring your own sound, but we'll pay you. Which is for any bar or venue to say, hey, we're willing to invest in a weekly and it's going to be a decent guarantee. That's huge. So I already got my ears perked. That rolls into 2019 April. I remember it because I did a social media post on it where the police came out for the first time. So for 5+ years, we were operating in this realm of do whatever you want because no one's going to complain. Well, someone complained, and coincidentally, it was one of the first few months that 70 Rainey, which is the huge high-rise condos right across the street, opened up. So coincidence? I don't know. We get the police to come out. They say, you're causing noise. And so, you know, we start to then understand what noise means in the eyes of the city. So I researched the sound ordinance. I knew that there's this something called the agent of change, which is a part of the ordinance that deals with a new entity in a neighborhood that wants to do something different, whether it's a residents coming into a entertainment street district like what we have on Rainey, or a venue coming into a neighborhood. Whoever was there first essentially gets precedent. Right. So I did research. Through that research, I came across Rebecca Reynolds, who's with the Music Venue Alliance, and she's a lawyer. So she knows how to fight, and she knows how to do it right in the court system. So I get in touch with her. I said, hey, we've been having the police come out and say we can't make any noise. You know, what can we do? And ultimately, it comes down to what the ordinance says. So on a Wednesday night, we can't make any noise outside after 10:30.
So, but you can't. The noise can't originate from outside.
There can't be any noise, any sound outside after 10:30. That's technically what the sound ordinance says. If you want to do any kind of live music outside, you need a OMV, an outdoor music permit. Now, what recently, so in April last year, we had the first police presence after 5 years of doing whatever we wanted. Then we started to rein in our sound from half step, making sure that we weren't over the decibel limit. They caught us one time not turning off the subs at midnight on a Saturday, which is the cutoff on a Saturday. And they cited us for the first time last year. The ticket was written at like 12:08. So they were just waiting for the bartenders to not be paying attention to the clock. So that way when 12 o'clock rolls in, they're walking into the venue saying, hey, you have music on too loud outside. And actually any sound outside is against the code or against sound ordinance. So they can cite you just by having some house speakers on, patio speakers. And so we got one ticket. Rebecca kind of helped us through that process, really understanding what the sound ordinance means, the decibel levels, specifically for Rainey, where to take those readings. We have an amazing sound engineer I call the scientist, Mr. Dennis Worcester, and he it has been so helpful. He's been talking to the city officials who deal with sound. I believe he's one of the only sound engineers that they know on a first name basis and have his cell phone number in their phone. And he just wants to comply. That's all any of us want to do, is we want to comply, but we also don't want to hurt the culture. And that's why we're trying to speak up and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. Why can't we have some light house music playing on the patio speakers after 10:30 during the week? When we don't have that, it affects the bar. So we got one citation last year. We thought we had a handle on everything. Rebecca assured us that the city officials are going to start taking over citations rather than the police. Well, then come January this year, we get a police presence where they come out. My band was on break. The police come to the front of the bar, and they cite us and 4 other bars on Rainy Street for essentially violating our OMV, our outdoor music venue permit. The ticket was written out to Half Step, which it needs to get written out to an individual. So already it wasn't valid. It says we were in violation. We were over our decibel reading for outdoor music, which we didn't have any live music on outside. It was just the speakers and during a break. So the level of sound coming from the speakers was a reasonable level. And they didn't take a meter reading. So the police essentially comes out and says, it's too loud and I'm going to cite you. And he had no evidence that was true.
And was there a complaint
So when I initially talked to the city officials, Brian Block, who handles a lot of this, he looked at the 311 logs and couldn't find a complaint. Now, in turn, there was a 911 complaint, an anonymous complaint that said that there was noise on Rainy Street. So they took that one complaint to cite everyone who had any kind of music playing on speakers, not live, but just on speakers, on Rainy Street. So yeah, I believe there's 5 citations altogether. Since then, that ticket got thrown out though for insufficient evidence. So that's one ticket that got thrown out. Now, since then, we've had a couple others that are still being handled in the court system. But what we're trying to figure out is why now all of a sudden is this an issue? Is there an agent of change that is coming into play where we can say, hey, it's the condos that are popping up. Y'all need to figure out sound treatment on your end to make sure that we can still operate and do our thing, adding to the culture, adding to tourism, and making sure that these clubs are thriving, which, if we didn't have music, Half Step would not be as successful as it is.
No. And if there wasn't music there, they probably wouldn't have built that giant high rise.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And if there wasn't a bunch of bars, and a amazing nightlife on Rainy, that condo wouldn't exist. So people wouldn't want to live there. So the sound ordinance essentially says that from Sunday to Wednesday, all music has to cease to exist outside at 10:30. I believe on Thursdays it's 11, and then Friday and Saturday it's midnight. So that means at midnight on Rainy Street, you're not going to hear any music outside.
Yeah, but the live music capital of the world.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We need to get that asterisk in there to where it's before 10:30.
Hey, that's
yeah. So it's been really frustrating, especially because we were able to operate with no problems for so long.
Right.
Now that we have this police presence, we have to walk on eggshells and essentially abide by what is in the ordinance until it gets changed. And that's what we're trying to work on. It's saying, yes, we will make sure that all live music outside will be done at 10:30 during the week and midnight on the weekends. But there's going to be a reasonable level of music coming out from patio speakers. That's just, so it's been tough. It's they've been harassing us, and there doesn't seem to be they're not letting up, even though the city officials have said don't mess with ambient sound, which is kind of what they're calling just patio speaker music coming from the bar as. So it's really frustrating because we thought we were complying. Turns out we weren't. Then we came back and thought, okay, now we're being compliant, and then turns out we're not. So,
and now you're being bullied.
Right, now we're being bullied, but people are taking notice of that. It doesn't seem fair. Ultimately it's up to the police officer's discretion on what they want to do, and you're gonna have to deal with it in court. And that's essentially what the officer said, is we'll just keep citing you, and then let the courts decide.
Wow. Okay, Doug, thank you so much for sharing the story and being on the show. I'm going to try and get updates from you as often as I can, and we'll keep an eye on this because, man, just know we got to do better than this. We'll be right back after this message with a review of Sydney Wright's new single, Home.
The CobraCast podcast with Bobby Sharon is a must-listen in the Austin music community. With over 280 episodes so far, you can tune in to hear Austin musicians and the like share their stories and their music every Monday and Thursday live at 7:30. Check this one out anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as Facebook and YouTube Live.
Hello and welcome to Daily Austin Music. My name is Colin McDonald. This is Damn Senior, Daily Austin Music single review. And today we're taking a listen to Sydney Wright's new single, Home. Home was recorded in one day at the Bubble Recording Studio with Frenchie Smith and A&R Peterson, and this recording was sponsored by Austin Music Foundation. I really enjoy Sydney's sense of arrangement, and it starts off really light with a beautiful loop and sparse vocals. She weaves in loops of vocals and voice percussion and other instruments gradually, but the harmonies come in and the bass drops, and by the time you get to the chorus, this is a fully produced track with a nice melody and an even better message. Sydney's voice on this one is nice and upfront and sounds very raw, but really well performed. Towards the end, she starts to pick up the speed of the melody and the track swells and takes on a whole new life. I could easily imagine this in a Disney or Pixar movie when the character learns that home is where the heart is. This is seriously great work. There's a lot here to unpack, and I'm looking forward to coming back for multiple listens. Now be sure to buy, share, and stream this music wherever you can. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to catch the Damn Tonight Show weekdays at 5 p.m. I'll see you tomorrow. Overload is a bunch of music fans hailing from all over the country that ended up in Austin because of their love of music and breakfast tacos. Overload's goal is to help you sift through the vibrant music scene here to find whatever it is you're looking for. Whether you're an Austinite looking for a cool concert this weekend, or you've never been to the music capital of the world but want to get the latest on what's happening here, Overload is there for you. They provide songs, interviews, reviews, podcasts, and more, with hopes to expand over time to include more ways for you to explore Austin music. Feel free to contact them with any suggestions or anything you'd like to see, and if you're an Austin band or band representative, feel free to send them your music. Or just say hi, and they're doing awesome work. Be sure to check them out at ovrld.com.